All right, class. So, as promised, we are going to show you the new way to organize your information when we're dealing with equivalent ratios. So, you can see here that this information is in a table. This is the exact same information that was in the last activity, right? We had 4 liters of orange juice, 5 of soda water, and you remember we had to go off the number line here, right, to get into the 400s. You can see here uh, we did times 100 uh, to get from 4 to 400. We can show that the same idea right here in a table. We're just kind of going outside of the table. We're still drawing that arrow and we're showing that we're doing times 100. And so if we're doing times 100 here, we need to do times 100 on this side as well, right? So we go from 5 to 500. You can see on the double number line, they organized it a little bit differently, probably a little bit better than what I had before. They went ahead and counted by fours, right? I just did 1, 2, 3, 4. They counted by fours, which means that 36 would have actually been in the right place, whereas I would have had it kind of not really in the right place as far as being to scale goes. But regardless, once we got up into the 400s and 500s, they still had to go off the number line because it wasn't practical to try to actually put tick marks in all the way to 400. It was kind of a little bit tricky getting to 36 as it was, but 400 is just going to be ridiculous. So we're not even going to bother trying to do that. Instead, we can use the table. And so with that, we wanted to give you some practice filling in your own table. So down here you can see we have batches of trail mix. So the recipe for trail mix says mix 7 ounces of almonds with 5 ounces of raisins. So then we have a table below here. You can see here 7 ounces of almonds, 5 ounces of raisins. So we want to fill in the blanks, okay, and we want to think about how to do that. So if you look here, we can again just as we do with the double number line, we can try to figure out how are we making a jump from one known amount to the next known amount. So here I can see right away, this one's going to be probably pretty easy. How do we go from 7 to 28? Well, we're going to do times 4. All right, so that means that to go from this one, this 5, to this blank spot, we're going to have to do times 4 as well. So 5 times 4, that is 20. Okay, so notice here that we are not going from least to greatest. We go from 5 to 20, but then we hopped out at 10. So we don't want to think in terms of counting or going in least to greatest. We just want to see how do we make a jump from one number to the next. Okay, so you can say we can go from 20 to 10 by dividing by 2. Or you could also see how do we go from 5 to 10. Okay, that might be easier for some of you, right? To go from 5 to 10, you're going to double that, right? You're going to do times 2. So we need to double 7. So 7 times 2, that's 14, right? So we can continue. So here we have 3.5. Okay, some of you may think that it's a decimal and it's the end of the world. Okay, but if you look a little bit closer, I think that you can see here, it might be easiest to tell with 7. How do we go from 7 to 3.5? You might recognize that 3.5 is half of 7, right? We would divide it by 2. So then we're going to find half of 5. We're going to divide 5 by 2. And if you work that out, you're going to get 2.5. 2.5, right? That's half of 5. Okay, let's see what else we have here. So we have now 250, and we want to figure out what goes in the blank here. We can pick out something here to see how we go from one to the next. Okay, there's a couple different options. For 1, we can go from 2.5 to 250 pretty easily. That's going to involve the decimal point moving 1, 2 spots to the right. And so if we move it 2 spots to the right, that means we would multiply it by 100, right? Or you can just think about it as we are going to move the decimal point in this one 2 spots to the right, right? We can go 1, 2, and that means we're going to have a blank spot here. We have to fill in a 0, so it's going to be 350. Okay, and there's another way you can look at that too. You can say, excuse me, we can go from 5 to 250 by multiplying times 50, right? So we could do 7 times 50, and that's 350 as well, right? Works the same way. All right, and then for 56, We have a bunch of different options at this point, all right? But I can see pretty easily here from 7 to 56, I'm going to do times 8. So then I'm going to do this one times 8, right? So 5 times 8, that's 40. All right. So we still were able to fill in the blanks the same way we would fill in the blank marks on a double number line. It's just now things are set up as a table, and now we're not really worried about having things in order from least to greatest the way we would with the number line. You can just compare how do you go from one known amount to the next known amount, and that's how you can fill in the blanks. All right. So for some of you, you'll find this to be easier, more convenient to the double number line. But either way, you can use either way. Just be aware of both methods. All right. So let's see here. So they want to know what methods did you use to fill in the table. Well, I showed you some methods there. And then number 3, how do you know that each row shows a ratio that is equivalent to 7 to 5, equivalent to this one? Well, it's what we did. We multiplied this amount times the same amount we multiplied this amount times. So we did 7 times 4 to get 28. We did 5 times 4 to get 20. Right? We could do 7 times 50 to get to 350. 5 times 50 to get to 250, and so on, right? So we multiplied both parts of the ratio by the same number, and so that means that the ratio is equivalent.